Welcome everyone, as we learned a very special segment now called For the Shabbos Table, sponsored by the Rubin family, with the Tefillah to Hashem for this Tafshin Pei Hey, that they should be Zeicher to a healthy Ben Zachar, and for their a good and kvittel in Ruchnius and in Gashmius. We have another sponsor to the shir, and that's anonymously Refuah Shalema for Racham Ben Zuleika, and for Banim Zacharim for Esther Bas Bastia, and for Shidduchim Tovim and Bracha Vatzlacha for Yonasim Ben Batya, Elio Ben Batya, and Yaakov Chaim Ben Batya. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. The holiest place on earth, as we know from Yom Kippur, is the place in the Beis Hamikdash called the Devir, otherwise known as the Kodesh Kodashim. Everybody knows it as the Holy of Holies. And in the Holy of Holies is the Arna Kodesh. On top of it is the Kruvim. And inside it is the Luchos, the Ten Commandments, the Shivrei Luchos, the first Brochen Luchos, and the Sefer Torah, like we learned in Bava Basra. And the idea that it conveys, Rashi says, Keruvium are Keruvia. They have an appearance of a young boy and a young girl. So the overall message of the Holy of Holies is the holiest thing on earth is the learning Torah of young children. And this matches very well with the Maimer Chazal, Eina oila miskayim ela b'shvil havel tinaika shel beis Rabban. That the world only survives because of the Torah breath of the children, the boys and the girls, the school children that learn Torah. And the idea is that it's more than our Torah, because our Torah is accompanied by sin. So we raise our voices. We're not careful to always say Hashem's name with kavanah. We waste our time. So our breath is not pure. But children under bar mitzvah, under bas mitzvah, everything is pure. So their Torah saves the world. And this became a very big reality to me. Some of you have heard me mention this in the past. During the Scud missile attacks, so a group of preschool moros came to Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and they asked him to please close the Chadar, because they had 30 children, so they were given 30 gas masks and 30 packets of injections in case there would be a gas attack. And they were told they were little gas masks. If anybody ever saw that, it's heartbreaking. Little gas masks. And they were told to put it on themselves first and then on the children. So they said to Reb Shlomo Zalman, how are we supposed to put it on screaming children? How are we supposed to know which child to put it on first? And if we're going to have to give injections to 30 children, how are we going to be able to close the Chadarim until the danger is over? They have to be a Gadol Hador to give this answer. Reb Shlomo Zalman has said he's not shutting down the Chadarim because that's playing into the hands of the enemy. Our biggest protection is these children learning. We're not stopping it. Eina oila mikayim ela b'shvil havel tinaika shel beis Rabban. But Rabbi Elimelech Biederman says there is a hevel that's even greater than the Hevel Tinaika Shel Beis Rabbah. And what is that? That's the learning that we do in between Yom Kippur and Succos. Because it says, it's a famous medrash, Ulekachtem lachem b'yom harishon. You should take the lulav and esrog on the first day. So the medrash asks, what do you mean on the first day? It's not on the first day, right? It's the 15th. Succos is the 15th. It's not the first day. It's a medrash Tanchuma in Emor. So it says, no, Rishon hu lachem lecheshbon avonos. It's the first time we get a chance to sin again. Because between Yom Kippur and Succos, who has time to sin? So Rebbe Elimelech, in his beautiful way, says, so here we are, we don't have sin. And when we learn when we don't have sin, it's greater than when children learn. Because children that learn are Eina Mitzvah V'Aisa. They're not commanded to do. But an adult is a Mitzvah V'Aisa. And the Gemara says in Masechtas Kedushin, Gadol Mitzvah V'Aisa, Misha Eina Mitzvah V'Aisa. It's greater when you do when you're commanded. And the reason why it's greater when you do when you're commanded, and this is the reason why we make a Bar Mitzvah celebration, is because when we're commanded, we have a Yetzer Hara trying to confound us. Children don't have a Yetzer Hara trying to confound them because they're not commanded. So we have to know how precious it is, the learning that we're doing now. It's even more than the Hevel Tinaika Shel Beis Rabbah. We're actually upholding the world. Now, I want to talk to you. There's a Bach that I always talk about at this time of the year. The Bach says that since the Lashon of the Pasuk is L'man yedun doroseichem, in order that your generations should know, L'man yedun doroseichem, ki b'Succos shafti, L'man yedun, not yedun. It's Pasuk in Vayikra, L'man yedu doroseichem ki b'Succos shafti es b'nei Yisrael. Your generation should know that I settled the b'nei Yisrael in Succos b'yitzio isam eretz Mitzrayim. So therefore, although normally it's enough to have a kavanah to be yotzei a mitzvah, that you know that you're doing it to be yotzei the commandment of Hashem, that's enough. But here, you have to know the reason. Because the Torah says specifically, L'man yedu doroseichem, that you should know it. So when we sit in the Sukkah, we have to tell our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, what are you thinking about now? And they have to know that Hashem put us in a Sukkah when He took us out. Now we paskin, like the Mandiyama, that Sukkah is Anani HaKavod, clouds of glory. So it's imperative that we should think about the miracle of the clouds of glory that protected us when we were taken out of Egypt. We went into the Midbar, and the clouds protected us. Millions of people, 3 million people, together with the Erev Rav, 3 million people. Clouds protected us. Now, there's a big question. Why is Succos 7 days? How long did the miracle last? 40 years. We know Pesach is 7 days. That's simple. Because we left it on the night of the 15th of Nisan, and we crossed the Yam Suf 7 days later. So that's why Pesach is 7 days. That's why the first day is Yom Tov, the celebration of the Exodus. And the 7th day is Yom Tov, Shvi Shel Pesach. It's a celebration of the miracle of the Yam Suf. The middle days are Nishtahin, Nishtaher, the Chol HaMoed. There were great miracles that the 9 million Egyptians that chased us couldn't do anything to us. But they were also scary because they were chasing us to ram us into the sea. So those are quasi-days. So that makes a lot of sense. Shavuos is one day in Eretz Yisrael, in the diaspora, since it's Sveka D'Yoma, it's 2 days, but it's one day because it was one day, the giving of the Torah. But why is Sukkot 7 days? That makes no sense whatsoever. 40 is not divisible in any way, shape, or form with 7. If it would be 10 days, okay. So it's 10 days to commemorate 4 decades of 10. Okay. 4 days, 4 decades. 7 days. So somebody says, Rabbi Weiss, don't you know that there's 7 Ushpizin? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David? I assure you it has nothing to do with the 7 Ushpizin. The Gemara doesn't even mention once the 7 Ushpizin. There's no source for the 7 Ushpizin in the entire Talmud Bavli. The 7 Ushpizim are not directly related to Succos. David HaMelech wasn't around in Succos. Yosef wasn't around on Succos. It's true that there are a lot of 7s. That's true. That's true. For example, there's 7 components in the lulav. Right? There's the 1 lulav, 1 esrig, 3 hadassim, that's 5, and 2 aravas is 7. That's 7 components. There are also 7 mitzvahs d'oraisa on Sukkos. Right? You have the mitzvah of lulav, esrig, hadas, arava, sukkah. You have the mitzvah of nisach hamayim, and you have the mitzvah of simcha. You have 7 mitzvahs. There's a lot of 7s, and as we said, the 7 Ushpizin. But why is Sukkot 7 days? So Baruch Hashem, we have the privilege that we have svarim that explain these things. So one of the great svarim on Minhagim is the Sefer Matamim. And the Sefer Matamim says there's 7 days on Sukkot because there's 7 clouds. It's such a great reason. We just explained from the Bach that in order to be Yotze in a mitzvah, you have to think about the clouds. Laman yedu doreisechem. There are 7 days because there were 7 clouds. What are the 7 clouds? There was a cloud above us that protected us from the beating sun, the killing dehydration of the desert. Now, but that's only in the day. Do you know what the cloud did in the night? There's no dehydration in the night. So the chinuch, the master of mitzvahs, after all, the first time we eat in the sukkah is in the night. The night is the night, the first night we makish tesvav to tesvav, we would even have to eat in the rain the first time Hamaitzi. What are we supposed to think? The children say, but Tati, Abba, Daddy, there's no sun in the night. It's a good question. So the chinuch, the master of the mitzvah, says in the night you're supposed to think that the cloud protected us from the killing frost. And if you ever went up to the Catskills, it was blazing hot. This is years ago. It was blazing hot in the day, but it was freezing in the night. In the desert, there was frostbite in the night. So the cloud protected us in the night from the desert frost. That's part of the kavanah. So for this you have to know. This is basic sukkahs. This is Sukkah 101. That's the one cloud, the cloud on top. There were 4 clouds on the 4 sides that protected us from the 4 different sides. You know that all throughout the 40 years, none of the surrounding countries were able to touch us because the clouds were an impenetrable barrier. As a matter of fact, it says that when Yisro, Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, wanted to come in, he couldn't get in. He couldn't get in. You couldn't get into the cloud. It says he shot an arrow. Now, no projectile went in, but the arrow had on it a letter. Ani chaysencha Yisro ba'elecha. And Hashem allowed that arrow to go through. Otherwise, he couldn't get in. So the 4 clouds encircled us. Remember, it says when Aaron died, so the enemy attacked us. And the reason is because the Anan came b'schus Aaron. When Aaron died, the Anan dissipated. And at that moment, before it came back b'schus Moshe, they attacked. So the 4 clouds protected us on all 4 sides. So that's already 5 clouds. 4 around and 1 on top. Then there was a cloud on bottom of us. That was a cloud that acted as a cruise ship. For 40 years, we didn't travel. For 40 years, the cloud underneath us was like a conveyor belt. We traveled day and night. It just moved underneath. It's like when you go to a fancy airport, you step on a conveyor belt. The cloud was a conveyor belt. That was the cloud on the bottom. So now we have 6 clouds. The 7th cloud was a miraculously cloud that went in front of us. It had many functions. First of all, it killed all the nechashim and akravim. It killed all the dangerous creatures that could have killed us. The poisonous snakes, the scorpions. It was manmich es agvayo magvia es hanomach. It leveled the ground so that we didn't have to walk on any hills. And it directed us. We went, in the 40 years, we traveled where Hashem wanted us to travel. So those 7 clouds, this, by the way, this is Succa talk. This is what you should speak about in the Sukkah. Because this is the central theme. This is the central theme. This is the central theme of Succos. Now, these clouds, that's why I always used to say, I said this already in hotels. I think I said this in the Lake House Hotel over 45 years ago. That it would make sense for somebody to create an entire industry of cloud decorations. Because it really is the essence of the fulfillment of the mitzvah. We have, today, many people use Xmas decorations, right? But imagine if we could create a line of clouds with bulbs in them. We could have also Amudei Eish, the pillars of fire, and you could always point at it and say, you know why we have the clouds, Yingelech, Meidelech? Because that's the ikka we have to think. Now, one of my Talmidim, one of our Zoomers, Irving Fishbaum, his son Mark, at least made a poster with 7 clouds, and they hang that poster in the sukkah. At least that's something. But it's really it really would be a great idea. I said if I had the time, I would patent it, and I would create a whole line of cloud decorations. It's so interesting that I said this over so many times, and it never happened. I also said that we know that the Gemara brings down that they used to hang from the Succa clusters of grapes and garlands of wheat. The reason why they did that, the simple reason, is because Succos is Chag HaOsuf, the festival of ingathering, the Simcha that we had, that we brought in the harvest. And we're showing that we know that Parnasa is from God. There's another reason we do it, and the other reason that we do it is because of the fact that Succos is a commemoration of the Anani HaKavod, and we commemorate that the mud tasted like anything that we wanted it to taste. It tasted like grapes, it tasted like wheat, whatever we wanted it to taste like. I said if I wouldn't be afraid that people would make fun of me, I would hang from the Succa, Maybelline, and Revlon. I would hang women's cosmetics. Because the Gemara in Saita says that together with the mun came down Takshite Nashim, came down cosmetics, which is a very big thing, because you see, the Sukkah, the Anani HaKavod came in the merit of Aaron HaKohen. Now, Aaron HaKohen was the man of Shalom, right? Aaron was Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom. So therefore, it was in his schus that came the Anani HaKavod. It was schus of Moshe that the mun came down. The schus of Aaron was the Anani HaKavod, and Miriam was the Be'er Shel Miriam. But it came down, Ufrois Aleinu Succas Shleimecha. Because the Sukkah represents Shalom. And that's why from the Anani HaKavod came down to the houses, the tents of the Bnei Yisrael, cosmetics, because that promotes Shalom Bayis. And I always wanted to learn that of the 10 national takonas that Ezra made when he repopulated Eretz Yisrael, he made it's such an odd thing that this should be a Jewish national takana. That if you're an Avon lady, if you're a roichel, a peddler of perfume, of cosmetics, of blush, and the eyeliner, you have to commit to go to every house on your route. You can't say, oh, that cul-de-sac, they're all poor, I'm not going there. You have to go to every house, otherwise you don't get your license. Isn't that an odd takana? But Ezra learned it from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Every house got cosmetics. Now, you're in the desert, you're not going to have everything. You're right. But cosmetics is not a luxury, it's a basic in the Jewish home. Shalom Bayis, you see. So if I wouldn't be afraid that they would make fun of me, I'd hang eyeliner from the schach. You could do it. I won't make fun of you. I'd put a bottle of blush. I already put oil from the schach because it's brought down a minig that you should hang some oil from the schach and use it in your menorah on Hanukkah. Now, nowadays, what you want to do, since many of us use the already prepared packages, the packaged oil, so you hang some of those prepared flasks from the menorah and from the schach, and you use it in the menorah. It's an ancient minig. It's a beautiful minig. Imagine you're connecting Chanukah to Sukkah. It's because under the Anani HaKavod had a tremendous kedusha. Now, one of the great questions that's asked is there were so many stupendous miracles in the desert. Why do we only commemorate the Anani HaKavod? There were so many stupendous miracles. There was the man. From the sky came down a coriander-like food that tasted like anything you wanted to taste. B'chal Avram is in the mood for a corned beef sandwich. Ruvain is in the mood for a tomahawk steak. I'm in the mood for some chocolate cheese blintzes. Whatever you want. Tastes like whatever you want. What a miracle. And the man? Perhaps that's the most, and the be'er, that's perhaps the most stupendous miracle of them all. The be'er, that from a rock, like we say in Hallel. Chamlomish, a flintstone, l'maynoi moyim. A flintstone, l'maynoi moyim. It's that a rock gave more water for 40 years, a mobile rock that gave more water every day than Niagara Falls. Such an amazing miracle. We only make for Anani HaKavod. Why is that? There are a lot of answers. One answer the Chidah says is that we can't make a rock that produces water. We can't make a food that tastes like anything we want. But the schach simulates a little bit the protection from the sun. That's one answer. Another answer that the Mishnah Brura says, the same thing with the Chidah, is that the Anani HaKavod was the first miracle. The man we didn't get right away because the matzah that we took out lasted for 30 days. And that was enough to support us. The first miracle was the Anani HaKavod, and the Mishnah Brura says them. So when we commemorate the Anani HaKavod, it's a catalyst to talk about all the other miracles. That's Sukkah talk. But and listen carefully to this. Listen carefully to this. The Chidah gives a remarkable pshat. The Chidah says, the Anani HaKavod is the only miracle we got without complaining. We complained for food. We complained for drink. We never complained for shade. A miracle is only worthwhile commemorating throughout the generations if it came without complaining. You see, complaining is a ruination of everything. If there's complaining in the house, it's not a pleasant place to be. When it says, Mitzena menucha isha beis isha, when Naomi told her two daughter-in-laws, Ruth and Orpah, she wishes them to find contentment in the house of the husband. If there's constant complaining, there's no contentment. You know, when Yisro told Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to weary yourself out. So it says there's a parsha in the Torah, Yisro. So Rashi says because Yeser, he added a parsha to the Torah with his advice. And it says, what parsha? When he said, Va'ato sechazeh. You should pick 70 people to help you. You should see to it. But that's not where the parsha started. The parsha started, Novel Tibo. You're going to wear yourself out. Mepharshim say, there's no yichus to complain about problems. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every Reuven, Shimon, and Levi has constructive criticism. That's not the trick. The trick is You have recommendation. You have improvement. You have an eitzah. Oh, 100 people have the complaint. 100 people know the crisis. And 100 people know the problem. But then there's the one person that has a good idea and is willing to promote it. The extra parsha is at complaining. Complaining is not worth commemorating. There's really so much to talk about. You know, the Gemara in Succa says, every school child learns this. It's in Mishnah, Succa. Succa gavaya me'asir ma'ama psula. Succa that's higher than 20 amas is puzzled. Now the simple reason is because 20 amas lo sholta be'ena. 20 amas is like 4 stories high. 4 stories high, the eye doesn't look all the way up there. So that's why it's puzzled, because they're supposed to look at it and get the message of the Anani HaKavod. That's the simple reason. But the Gemara says, and this is already a deeper idea, the Gemara says that if the sukkah is 20 amas high, of course we know there's also a reason, because it's not a diras harai already. If it's so high, it's a diras keva. It's a permanent abode. The sukkah is supposed to be a temporary abode. But the Gemara says something profound. The Gemara says if the schach is so high, then the shade is not provided by the schach, but by the walls. And the main idea is the schach should provide it. Because the schach represents the tzela de memnusa. It represents the shadow of Hashem. And if the schach is that high, then the shade is provided by the walls. The idea of Sukkos is to realize that it's not the walls around us that provide our protection. It's Hashem that provides our protection. That's a very important lesson. We have to realize that the real success is coming only from Hashem, not from the walls that we create. That's why Reb Shamshon Raphael Hirsch says a remarkable thing. Reb Shamshon Raphael Hirsch says that we know that if it's mechubal lekarka, it's possible. So that if we have a tree that's attached to the ground, that's not, and it's over it serves at the roof, it's no good. Because the schach cannot be mechubal lekarka. Can't be attached to the ground. Why? Says Reb Shamshon Raphael Hirsch with such a spectacular lesson. The idea is we're supposed to remove ourselves from the security of the ground, of this earth, and realize that our real security comes from above, from Hashem. That's the lesson of schach. That's the lesson of the tzedel be'emnusa. I want you to know that there's so much in this Yom Tov. The whole idea that the esrig is like the heart. So many people, they miss out on the main lesson of the esrig. There are, in our lore, there is so many stories. Like, for example, the Chofetz Chaim was living in a time when he was fleeing, that there were no lulav and esrog. Somebody got a lulav and esrog for the Chofetz Chaim. So he used it, but he didn't bring it to shul to do the nanuim, the shuckling during Hallel. And they asked him why not. And he said, if I would bring it, I'm the only one that has it, other people would feel bad. The nanuim in Hallel is just a minig d'Rabbanan. But causing people pain and aggravation, that's an issa d'oraisa. You had great poskim tell their talmidim, when they would come and show the Rebbe a very fancy esrig, He said, I don't understand you. You could get a regular esrog that's kosher and buy your wife a new dress. That's much more important for you. You could buy your wife a piece of jewelry. You have to know this is the heart. You have to know what's in the heart. It's very important. The little esrog, Hadassim and Aravas, Reb Miller used to call them our weapons. You have to understand, Hashem gave us a way that we should protect our heart with the esrog, our spine. So many people have lower back pain. Our spine with the lulav. Our eyes, people suffer with cataracts, with macular degeneration, lo yaleinu. Our eyes with the hadassim. Our mouths with the arava. We said, what about hearing? We said we already protected our hearing by listening to the shofar. There's so many things, Rabbi say. There's no time now to go through. I want to thank our sponsor, the Rubin family, our anonymous sponsor for Shalema, for Rachman Ben Zuleika, for Barim Zacharim, for Esther Bas Basia, for Shidduchim Tovim V'Atzlacha, Ubracha, for Yonasim Ben Batia, Elio Ben Batia, Yaakov Ben Batia. If you want to sponsor future shiurim, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful Succos and a wonderful Shabbos.